Oh, and Sarah, I don't know if that I've ever done anything formal to tell you the truth, but
Or
we'll just
informally.
right, right. Thank you for that. And I also want to thank Kristen Litzelman because I got to chat with her about last week's presentation. I didn't get there, and it's so hard to move into what we don't want to maybe move into. That whole caregiving word is tough. And to call ourselves a caregiver can feel like we're maybe an imposter. It can feel like, well, I'm not really there, or, well, this was my marriage vow. What do you mean now I'm a caregiver? I don't like that. And so today, what we're really going to look at is yeah, some tools for current and future caregivers, that, real big future, because I have a feeling that a lot of us on this call might not admit that, yeah, I caregive. Maybe we parented, maybe we helped somebody out. And I have a feeling that a lot of us are just saying, yeah, I'm doing this because this is what we do. This is just what we do. So we're going to share the screen, and I modified the title just a twitch because I have a tendency to do that too. And I just have to get the right screen because apparently I have all of them open. And really calling this also one of the tools that we can really look at is compassion and self-compassion. And I'm just going to say this is kind of compassion for the unaccepting caregiver of, I don't want to be called this. And I'm just going to own that. I'm in the same boat. I don't want to be called a caregiver. This is just what we're supposed to do, right? So looking at it, we have this beautiful little frog here. And if you like frogs, you're welcome. And if you absolutely hate frogs, sorry. There's this whole fable about if a frog is in warm water that's slowly getting warmer and warmer, that frog thinks he's living his best life. And the question really is, when that water gets too hot, sometimes it's too late for us. And we're like, oh, shoot, now what? Now I need help. I have no way to know where to turn. I don't want to ask for help now. Frankly, asking for help is really hard anyway. There's no steps to get out of this pot. And as you might be in your warm water thinking that maybe this is a beautiful jacuzzi, are you really happy with your circumstances? Or have you just grown comfortable with them? Sometimes we start just getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, and we're like, well, it just is the way it is, or I'll just add this, no problem. Or, I won't take that time off for all those extra hours I worked because, it's okay. I can do this. And eventually we find ourselves in this pot of boiling water that we're like, oh, shoot. I didn't remember to get out. I didn't get out when I needed to. I didn't ask for help. I didn't say, hey, the temperature's perfect here, and let's stop. So I would like you to just think about, and if you are willing to put this in chat, that would be amazing. If you would like to shout it out and unmute and give us an answer, that would be amazing too. But looking at your day to day, where is your temperature rising? And we put those in the quotes. So what are some things maybe that you find yourself doing now, if you're a caregiver or not a caregiver, that you're like, oh, I didn't really expect this to be happening, and here's what I'm dealing with.
It took me a long time to figure out that the water was getting warmer.
It really does. It really does, because it's slow. And when we're in that nice warm water, it actually maybe feels a little bit good at first. And we don't necessarily see it. And we can think of things, and if you want to keep putting in chat or mention it, think of things like just dinner time or breakfast time. Are there extra things you find yourself doing? Are you making dinner every night and you didn't used to? Are you maybe doing the dishes and maybe your partner always did the dishes? We could look at our social lives. Are you staying in more? rather than going out? Has your social life changed just a little bit? Sometimes when the people we love get a diagnosis, things change really fast, and we tend to isolate a little bit because, well, we're nervous. If all of a sudden we need to use a cane, if all of a sudden we have a symptom that's visible, if all of a sudden we aren't confident where we used to be. One of the things that I found is I walk indoors a lot first now instead of not first. You're the person who's kind of going in and breaking that ice. And, sometimes our people will follow us because we're their safe net. So thinking about that social stuff that we might do, thinking about the planning. Are you more of a planner now? Do you think about, okay, I have this long while maybe my person is, can stay at home, or we have this long where the person I love is okay out and about. So if we can get to the grocery store and the post office and the pharmacy, that would be a really good full day, but maybe that can only be in a 2-hour period. So are you planning things around anything else? In chat, we have what started as casual conversations and developed into therapy. Yeah. Yeah. So really looking at when we're kind of diving into that warm water of caregiving, even if we don't want to call it that, there are just these tiny changes that start happening and we might not recognize them. A big one, honestly, is driving. All right, did your person drive most of the time? And driving's a hard thing to not do when you're used to always doing it. So how do you deal with that? Or if your loved one is maybe taking some wrong turns and maybe getting us lost in the fog once in a while, how do we go into those conversations, keeping dignity and making sure that we're safe and all of that, right? There's a lot more mental load when we're a caregiver or getting to be that caregiver, right? So I want to really start with this compassion fatigue path. And if you like cats, here you go. Here's a bunch of them. So when we become a caregiver, or when we realize, oh, I'm a caregiver now, and this might, again, be, okay, here's a diagnosis that's maybe very sudden and you slam into that caregiving. This might be a diagnosis where, okay, here's this thing and it's going to look different as the weeks go on, but it doesn't look different right now. So we're kind of maybe taking a path, but we're really not sure. And sometimes we just don't see it. Sometimes things just happen and we age and things happen and we're going down this path. A lot of times when we start anything new, we are that top cat there. We're that zealot. We're going to be the best caregiver ever. We're going to have activities every day. And our person that we love is going to always love us and be kind to us. And they're going to just really enjoy everything that we've planned and do. And then reality hits. That might take 30 seconds. It might take 30 days. And we're going to start bouncing around this circle. We might get irritable. Because frankly, all of a sudden we're doing more and maybe people aren't really recognizing it. And maybe we're angry that we don't get to do what we thought we were going to do. Maybe our life at this point just doesn't look like we thought it was going to. Maybe we thought we were going to travel and we can't leave town anymore. And we're going to get irritable because this isn't exactly fair. And so we're going to just put that there and say, yeah, we might be grumpy. We might get down to that sleepy cat down there and with a little withdrawal because it can get very overwhelming. We might be tired because we're doing more. We're helping another person and you're doing enough for 2 people and you're trying to maybe take care of yourself and you're making sure this other person is getting everything they need. That might be with all those basic needs. That might be the emotional with, okay, now we're really going to have to start talking about things. That might be looking at, okay, we're really going to have to look at our will and our finances and make sure everything's in order. And that can be exhausting. We might get over to zombie cat over here, a sense where we feel like we can never do enough. We have this inflated sense of importance. And when somebody comes in and says, hey, you know what? I want to come over for a little bit. Why don't you go out for a cup of coffee or, go out to a bookstore, do whatever you want to do. There's some of us who say, oh, no, 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 I can't do that. Nobody can take care of my person like I can take care of my person. And we don't take breaks. And we can maybe look back if we were parents, and sometimes you look at, oh yeah, nobody takes care of my kid like I did. True, absolutely true. And sometimes we need those breaks, and sometimes your person needs that break. Frankly, we bounce around this. If ever any of you played pinball machines, we know that that pinball does not go where it's supposed to go. You hit the little ball and it's supposed to go over here because that's what physics does, but pinball machines don't listen to physics, and it bounces all over. This is what we do on the daily. We're bouncing all over this. We might be angry. We might be sad. We might be exhausted. We might be, oh, hold it, I need to do this, until we get to this part of unwell versus renewal. And this is where we start to burn out, and we just kind of, all right, I just have to make it through this day. I just have to get through this day. If I can just get to where I can go to bed, I'll be fine. And we kind of lie to ourselves, right? And then we also might get to that compassion resilience where we're like, okay, here's what this is. And here's how I need to reframe things so I don't lose it. So I can keep getting up every day and I can keep finding a little bit of joy. So how, you ask, Heather, can I do that? And I realized just now I didn't introduce myself. So hi, I'm Heather. I am in La Crosse County with Human Development and Relationships. And I work a lot on compassion fatigue and compassion resilience. So here we are. What is this self-compassion, you ask? Well, it's three things. And we'll talk a little bit about each thing. And then we'll look at, okay, what does that mean for me? And I'm going to tell you today that you will hear things, and some of it you'll be like, well, that's not new. I know that. Yep, probably. And do we do it for ourselves? Maybe not. And some of you are going to hear some things today and you're like, I'm not doing that. That's okay. Don't. If something really doesn't feel like it's going to fit, don't do it. It's okay. We don't have to do things that everyone tells us. And if some of you are like, all right, I'll try that one. Try it on, try it out. A lot of things take about 21 days to actually feel not weird when we're trying it. So what we're going to really look at today is we're going to look at self-kindness. And this is really being kind to ourselves instead of critical. We're pretty much experts at being critical of ourselves. We're going to look at some common humanity, and we're going to realize, oh, you know what? No one's life is perfect. No matter what they put on Facebook, no one's life looks that way all the time. And we're going to look at some mindfulness. And really, that is not meaning that you have to do yoga or sit and, meditate. If you do, that's amazing. This is really just, all right, let's notice. Let's notice what we need and figure out how we can do that. So that first one, that self-kindness. There's this beautiful picture of this lovely apple tree. And anybody remember that book, The Giving Tree? There's a book by Shel Silverstein called The Giving Tree, and this tree gives to this little boy. And this little boy got some apples from that tree at first, and then he wanted some branches to build a fort, and then he wanted more and more and more from this tree. And as the boy aged and the tree got to give more. The boy took more. Eventually, he chopped the tree down and built a canoe. And so the tree then becomes this stump. And frankly, I'm going to tell you, I really don't like the book. I don't like the book. Eventually, I thought the tree should say no. Like, yeah, find your own canoe. I'm this tree giving you some shade. So when we look at what we give to others, what are we able to give to others? Are you willing to give the fruits of your love? Are you willing to be like, I'm giving you my everything, knowing then that we might not be able to give after that? Sometimes we will burn ourselves out. Now, how do we maybe try to work on being less self-critical? Because all of us have that voice, right? Where we're like, well, that wasn't any good. I didn't do very well there. I could have done better here. Sometimes we even get stuck so much where there was a lady I was working with and she wouldn't eat pie. Like, who says no to pie? And she didn't like pie because her mother always yelled at her about how she made pie. And that voice was in her head every time pie was there. And so sometimes we have this history or these things that just pop up into our head, and that's our self-criticism. So one of the first things that we can do is we can start recognizing and acknowledging our own feelings. And this is hard. I'm going to tell you this is hard because frankly, as if you've been in the Midwest for a while, we're a little bit allergic to feelings. And we always want to just be fine or okay, or maybe we can show some anger. And that's where we're seeing a lot right now. Folks are angry, and behind that anger is more, I'm overwhelmed, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm frustrated, I'm not heard. So I'd like you to think right now, and you have this lovely annotate feature. It might be on the bottom of your screen. It's on the top of mine right now. It has a little pencil on there. And you can just click that annotate button. Oh, mine's on the side now. It moved, folks. And there's a little stamper. And it is the check mark. And if you click stamp, you can click a check mark or a line. I'd like you to think about what feeling are you having today, just in general. What's your feeling today? And if you want to put it on one of these emojis that maybe looks like what your feeling is, that would be cool. If you're like, I have no idea how to use annotate, Heather, that's just going to frustrate me, you can write your feeling in the chat. Or if you're like, yeah, I'm not sharing my feeling. I've lived this long without having to share my feelings. I'm not telling you. You can just keep it in your head. That's fine too. What are you feeling today? All right. We have some of that sly face. We have some happy. We have with kind of the maybe the kissy mouth, maybe that is, or the laughing. Yeah. A lot of stars on the happy. Yeah. And yep, that's how we draw those lines. Sometimes, yeah, this annotate, it gets tough. All right. Here's why this is so important. When we acknowledge our feeling, we can actually start doing something about it. If we don't acknowledge how we're feeling, sometimes we just try to keep going. Now, living in Wisconsin, some of you say you're still living where it's all white out and there was snow yesterday in some parts of the state. And it helps when, we're those hardy folk. We're going to go out and shovel. And then when it snows tomorrow, we're going to go out and shovel. We eventually get sick of shoveling, don't we? And it's okay to say, I'm sick of shoveling right now. It's okay to say that because there's this lovely, cute saying, could be a bumper sticker. You have to name it to tame it. And if we name, hey, here's where I am. In the chat, I see rush day when we feel like we need to rush everywhere. If we're always rushing, when do we relax? And if we're always rushing at 90%, 100%, when do we get to be at 0% to even that out? So naming and acknowledging our feeling can really help us be like, okay, all right, that's what I'm feeling. Here's what's going on. Here's what I can do about it. Because I bet you've been here before. If we're sad, if we're overwhelmed, if we're exhausted, we've been there before. And we know that, okay, I've gotten through this before. I can get through this again. And so sometimes naming that feeling is really going to help us out. I'm going to clear this. Maybe, there we go. And move to the next slide. So we can pay attention to our feelings and then I annotate. Look at that. Maybe shut down, annotate, Heather. See? You're like, oh yeah, these people who do this Zoom stuff, they know what they're doing. Yeah, we pretend sometimes too. So the other thing that we can really do when we are looking at that self-criticism is we can try to find what are we grateful for. Now, there's a whole lot of research in neuroplasticity and in compassion and in gratitude. And frankly, all of our brains were made with a negativity bias. And this is basically easiest example to tell you is when you're crossing a street and you're looking to see if it's safe to go, and there's a car maybe, I don't know, a block away, 2 blocks away, your brain often tells you, nope, don't go, that car's coming. Until you start to learn, oh, hold it, that car is like going 10 miles per hour. Or nope, just wait, that car, he's not going very fast. Or maybe, whoa, that car's speeding, I'll wait till he passes. That negativity bias, frankly, keeps us alive. And it tells us, hey, are you safe? It stops us to check. The thing with our brain is sometimes it wraps around that negativity bias and it hugs it so hard that we forget to find some of those little glimmers in a day. And so I'd like you to just think of right now, what is something you are grateful for or thankful for? And I'm not meaning like thankful, like we're sitting down at a big dinner and we're all holding hands and saying, I'm thankful for my family. Because yes, we are. I'd like you to think of something right now today, might be small. What are you grateful for? And if you'd like to type that in chat, we can do that. If you'd like to say it out loud, you can do that too. A good friend, good health.
Well, I'm grateful for my husband right now. I had knee surgery about a month ago, and he's been real good at taking care of everything that I need, bringing me breakfast and helping me with lunch and just the general caretaking that we usually do for each other. And the roles have been reversed for him, so usually it's me that's the one doing it.
Yeah. Sue, thank you for that. And it can be hard when, you care for each other and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I can't share in this anymore. It can be weird to accept that help. It can be very weird. Also in chat, we have friendship, my daughter and a good friend. Yeah. Yeah. Here's one little thing about gratitude. It can be really, really tiny things. And I have a picture here of traffic lights. And now I grew up in the middle of nowhere, frankly, in the country. Even the town I was outside of didn't have traffic lights. We didn't even have stop signs by the railroad tracks. So traffic lights now are kind of cool because it's like, oh, wait a minute, you can direct traffic and I don't have to have as much negativity bias in my brain. Sometimes though I run late. And sometimes there's traffic lights that take forever to turn green. And so what I've started doing is I've made it a practice to thank green lights. And this sounds absolutely ridiculous, right? You thank green lights, Heather. Why? Because it helps my brain notice positive things. And anything that we can do to notice any positive thing helps our brain, helps our neurons say, oh, hold it. I like looking for positive things. I enjoy feeling, oh, that was really kind of nice. So if we find those little tiny things that we're like, oh yeah, that was really nice, our brain helps do that. So if in your day you notice the sunrise, you notice the smell of your coffee or tea, or you start running the water and for some reason it's warm instead of it needing to warm up, sometimes that's really nice. Noticing those really small things and either thinking them in your head, saying it out loud, writing it down will help us be less negative and help us find some of those really neat little moments during a day, even if our day is really going crappy. So finding the little things. If you don't have traffic lights, you don't have to thank green lights. You can thank the smell of your coffee. You can thank, the stove for making a good egg this morning that you made, but your stove heated it up, right? So finding the little things. So I'd like you to think of what are those really, really little tiny things? And as we move to the next slide, if you wouldn't mind putting those in chat, because you have my family, son and husband, yeah, all of these really amazing things. What's a tiny thing, just a teeny tiny thing that you absolutely are grateful for? Yeah, eagles. Oh, those are so cool. Waking up in the morning. Earlier program in the series dealt with awe, and that's been really powerful. Add green lights to your appreciation list. There we go, right? Yeah. So, oh, and then I'm on annotate again. See, oh my goodness. I think I like the old annotate better on this. We'll have to get used to it. I'll change my brain, right? I can reframe this. I'm going to get used to this. Okay. Oh, birds singing. Yes. And spring flowers. Oh, yeah. And truly, I do. I agree, Mary Lou. When those tulips start to come up and then there's snow on them, that's kind of pretty. It's kind of pretty. And how resilient are those tulips that they're still growing green through that cold snow? I think they're a little hardier than I might be. So one of the next steps for compassion, resilience, and being kind to ourselves is common humanity. And this is really noticing that everyone suffers in different ways. We're not perfect. Nobody is perfect. And we're not alone. I was talking to my daughter last night, and she's having a tough time in school. She goes off to, actually, she lives in Stevens Point now, and she's in college there. And she was having a day. She was just having a day. And she started chatting, and I just said, we all have these kind of days. And it was one of those, yeah, everyone has these kind of days. So just a quick story for you, because sometimes we remember stories better than we remember the stuff we're supposed to do. When I was growing up, and I lived outside of Stevens Point, about 20, 30 minutes away. And to really get the good groceries and good deals on groceries, we needed to go into Stevens Point or Marshfield to get all of the stuff for our weekly meals. And my sister and I would often plan the meals, and we'd have to plan the grocery list of what do we need to get. And we'd go to the store, and this is the lettuce we would get. Good old iceberg lettuce, right? That was what we used for everything because it was the lettuce that existed at the time. And if you're younger, you'll look at this and you're like, oh, that's how they make those wedge salads. Yeah. And what's funny is for some of us who are a little older, we're like, okay, wedge salads are just iceberg lettuce. That's no big deal. I mean, that's all we had. So the thing is, everything we ate had iceberg lettuce. If it was a salad, iceberg lettuce. Tacos, chopped up iceberg lettuce. If it was a sandwich, iceberg lettuce. And it was just iceberg lettuce. That was it. Well, all of a sudden, there's all these other fancy lettuces that start popping up in the grocery store. Now, my mom, who paid for the groceries, right? Did she buy into these lettuces right away? Absolutely not. She's like, why do we need to pay for this? This is just some kind of, weird next thing. We don't need this. So we kept eating iceberg lettuce. And in all honesty, it took until maybe the early 90s, mid 90s before I was like, hold on, this butter lettuce is amazing on a sandwich. And romaine, oh, and arugula. Arugula is amazing. You can even cook arugula and like do fun things with it. And it tastes different every way you use it. The thing is, none of us knew about this new lettuce. We had no idea how it tasted, that it was way more nutritious than iceberg lettuce. We didn't know what we didn't know. And a lot of time when we're looking at our situation, we don't know what we don't know. Sometimes we're going to dive in to some different caregiving thing, and our brain goes right to the end. What do I need to do to be prepared for the end? We might, say, okay, I'm going to have some mobility issues. And in our head, we've redone our bathroom. How do I get a walk-in shower instead of a tub? And, maybe we could take a few years to do that, but nope, now I need to do this right now. We don't know what we don't know. And so I'm going to challenge all of us to always think beyond the iceberg lettuce and think about, okay, how can I try these things out? Who can I talk to learn about all of these different things? So don't get stuck with iceberg lettuce. So looking at it then, sometimes we hear folks, especially Gen Z, saying, I was today years old when I learned this. And there's a lot of those situations, folks. There are things that people are showing me and I'm like, wait a minute, we could do this when? How? What? So we're always learning. What is something you just learned about that maybe surprised you a little bit? Or something that you just learned about and you're like, oh, this is going to be one of my life hacks now. I'm always going to do this because this is so amazing. And you can talk if you want, or if you have something to put in chat, you can certainly do that. Something you just learned. Yeah, resource, mindfulness meditation, drop-in sessions on Zoom and a link. Nice, thank you. Narcan training, yeah, that's a big one too, right? I didn't even know it was a nose spray. I thought it was like an EpiPen initially, so it was like, whoa, that's a surprise. Grocery pickup services, ordering groceries online, yeah, game changer, right? I don't have to get out of my car. I don't have to walk through the store. I don't have to people if I don't want to people. Yeah. It was actually one of my son's first jobs was he was the person who shopped in the store right when those started. And so he would have to try to figure out different substitutions and call people back. It's what helped him talk on the phone actually, because he had to call people. The power of awe. Yeah, finding those, oh, great moments. One of my awes is when you open the coffee for the first time and that smell, oh, is so amazing. The importance and value of wearing a mask. Yeah, yeah. All of these, right? Was like, oh, that was important. We're always learning. And it's okay if we don't know something. I have a very good friend who's a physical therapist, and she's a physical therapist for older adults, and she also works hospice. And sometimes what she finds is people want to look like they know what they're doing. We all want to look like we know what we're doing. We want to look competent. We want to look like we can handle everything. And she said, I wish folks would know that it's okay to say, I can't do that. If we have to, maybe our person is home and maybe they need some help with mobility or transferring from a wheelchair to a chair or walking to the bathroom. She's like, I wish I would know. And I wish people were okay telling me what their limits are, because I want to help them do what they can do. And then when we can't do those things, when they won't tell me, I don't know it. And then sometimes we get into trouble. And so really knowing what we can and can't do is so important. So next then is, okay, here's this mindfulness stuff. And in all honesty, you can go to meditation sessions with UW, it looks like in the chat. And also mindfulness is really just knowing and noticing what we're dealing with, noticing our struggle or our awe, feeling it instead of reacting, just sitting there and saying, all right, here's what I feel, and being with it. Well, there's a lot of times we're like, oh, let's shove that to the side. I don't want to deal with this right now. And frankly, sometimes we can't. Sometimes we do have to compartmentalize. There's only so far and so much, though, that we can shove down. It's like the pressure canners pre-1970, before all the safety features, those pressure canners that would blow up. We do that as people too. If we shove too much down and don't take care of ourselves, we do blow. We will blow. So really, it's just paying attention, listening, watching, figuring out, okay, what comes next on purpose. So we're intentionally looking at, okay, what's going on here in that present moment, and non-judgmentally. So if I see something happening and maybe this is just that sunrise, or maybe this is those tulips coming up in the spring, or those birds chirping, as long as it's not a mourning dove, because those things scare me when I'm running. They like fly right up from the ground. And so mourning doves, they should just chill out. But the robins and the cardinals and the chickadees, oh, such lovely music, right? So really, this is just, all right, let's listen to these bird songs. And isn't that pretty? And oh, here's that song, and here's a little different whistle. And did this chickadee change keys today? Maybe they're singing in a little different key. And just focusing on that and being curious. That helps us increase our awe. That helps us increase those glimmers that we see and even our gratitude. If something's not going well, same kind of thing. Be like, okay, the person who I really love and I'm, doing some caregiving for maybe is yelling at me. Not great. What are they yelling about? Maybe it's we didn't do this, or we gave them a sandwich and they forgot that they wanted the sandwich. Or maybe, we started to drive and now they're really a little bit irritated because they really want to drive and they maybe know that they shouldn't or can't, or right now it's not a great time. So kind of looking at, all right, this person's a little angry, and really intentionally, all right, they're angry about this, maybe not necessarily at me, and focusing on right now, here's what's going on, and just kind of being curious and being able to then say, yeah, I'd be really frustrated too right now. And just kind of going with that. And here's where those feelings come back at us, right? Is saying, yeah, this is overwhelming, or this really stinks. And acknowledging their feelings too. Because in all honesty, as we move through life and as we get older and as our memory kind of, sometimes bits and spurts with that, we will always remember how a person makes us feel. We might not remember their name. We might not remember what they do or why they're there. We will always remember how they made us feel. And if we can be mindful of that, we're going to have a much kinder relationship. So next thing that we can do, and I'm going to have you just pick, and there's a few values words on this page. There's also like 200 more. I couldn't fit them all on one slide. I'd like you to think about what are a couple of your core values. If you were going to describe yourself using one or two words, what would those words be? If you don't mind popping those in chat, you can do that. If you wanted, you can also look at, okay, if I'm looking at, I'm kind of caregiving, or I am a caregiver, or, here's what's going on, and you want to focus this on caregiving. What's your core value for caregiving? We'll just wait for a couple in the chat, or if you want to shout those out. Your values. And if the word's not on here, it's okay. And if you don't know about the spelling, I'm not going to check the spelling either. Right. Sometimes we have, as we start to get into caregiving, we have connection, love, caring, compassion, a sense of humor, laugh with, not at people. Oh yeah, laughter can get us through all kinds of good situations, right? Authenticity and gratitude. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So here's this. This is where it gets a little bit tough. And this is where it can get a little bit where we're like, I don't like this. I don't like this. And it's okay. We don't have to like this. Here's what's important. We see also equality, compassion, love, and gratitude. Yeah. Thank you, folks. Keep them coming. And think about, yeah, here's what my core value is, particularly with caregiving or working with other people, dealing with other people, if that might be the case. Finding out our core value is important because we know then what we want to make sure we do. When we have a value, we can say, okay, I want to have compassion. I want to have love. I want to have gratitude. I want to have heart. What does that look like? Because I can say, I want to be compassionate. And we go back to those cats, remember? Sometimes I don't feel very compassionate. Sometimes I feel a little bit angry. Sometimes I feel very irritated. Sometimes I don't want to look at the person that I'm looking at right then and there. And that's what I have, right? And so when we look at that, what do we really want to make sure we say yes to? So if I really am focusing on compassion, I want to really care about this person. I want to make sure that they're doing okay. I want to make sure they know I love them and vice versa. What does that look like? Does that mean I make breakfast for them? Does that mean I'm going to bring them coffee when they can't get to the coffee maker? Does that mean I listen at the doctor and maybe advocate for them? Because that can be really hard when you're the person dealing with a diagnosis or something that the doctor's telling you. It can be scary to say, "Ooh, wait, I have questions." Is that advocacy part of your compassion? Here's why this is important. And this is why it's important to kind of, narrow it down. All of these are important, and to really make sure that we have a couple that we're like, here's what I really want to focus on. Here's why this is important, because then we get to boundaries. And this is just such a terrible word. And I'm going to admit I'm not amazing at boundaries. I say yes to way too much. And sometimes I tend to overpromise and then underdeliver. And when I underdeliver, I'm in essence saying no to things, right? And some things kind of drop off your list, or some people tend to drop away because I've said yes to them, but I don't show up. So when we know what our value is, we know what we want to say yes to. So if we want to be that compassionate, loving, grateful, kind, safe caregiver, all right, what do I have to say yes to? And this could be this isn't an easy situation, but it's easy to think about. It's the Midwest. We have rugs all over our house, right? When we walk in, we have rugs because it's wet outside 50% of the time, and we need to get the snow off of there. Maybe our person, though, that we are living with, caregiving for, or who we love, maybe they don't see as well as they used to. And then those rugs become more of a tripping hazard. Maybe they need to use a cane or a walker or a wheelchair to keep their mobility, and those rugs are hindering everything. So if I'm going to be that compassionate caregiver, but I really, really love my throw rugs, this then can really help me make that decision of, all right, what do I need to do about the rugs because my person's having a hard time. So if we know our value, we know what we want to say yes to, and then we can more easily say no to other things. Being proactive. Now this, we want to do it when our person's doing okay. We don't want to do this in the heat of the moment. We don't want to do this when we are irritable, because then it's just not going to go well. But if we're proactive, we can say, all right, when you're not doing okay, when you say no, or when you yell at me, what is it that you really need? And I will try to do this. So kind of working out with, how can we do this? And sometimes with folks who I love, am caregiving, be like, okay, you want me to walk in first to a room, which I kind of hate doing, frankly. And you know what? I need to be the icebreaker. I have my job. I'm going to be the icebreaker for this person, and I'll go in, and if something needs to happen, I can be the one to say something. Knowing that first, though, is very, very helpful, because then you're not trying to do things on the fly. Sometimes we need to just say it. And this is hard too, right? There was one holiday where I really, really wanted this little thing for my KitchenAid mixer, and I hinted at it like 572 times. I hinted at it. Did I get that thing for my KitchenAid mixer for that holiday? Nope, I did not. I did just put it on the list the next year, though, and the next year I did get it. So sometimes just saying what we need feels really wrong, because we're supposed to be humble. We're supposed to be self-sustaining, all of those things. I'm just going to tell us now that that's a lie. It's a total fallacy. Sometimes we need to just ask for what it is we need and use simple language. Sometimes pointing out those violations to boundaries in the moment. Maybe someone, snaps at us for doing what they had just asked us to do, and we're like, I hear you, you're angry, you had asked for this, and I made it for you. And just saying, here's what happened right there. Giving explanations that are specific and relevant to the other person. Sometimes we need to speak their language. We all have the way that we like to be talked to, and other people have the way that they like to be talked to. And we've heard of the golden rule, treat others as you would want to be treated. I'm going to modify that to being the platinum rule. Treat others how they want to be treated, because we are all different. A few years ago, I broke my leg, and I don't ask for help very well. And so getting coffee, because I really do like coffee, was hard. And my husband would bring it to me in the morning, right? I was there with my leg way up in the sky, and he'd bring me coffee. And eventually I would just start getting my own coffee because I didn't want to have to ask him. And he got so mad at me. He was so irritated. He's like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you ask for coffee? You know, trying to carry a coffee cup with crutches, which I did learn how to do. And I also needed him to say, I don't want to have to worry about you spilling coffee, getting the crutch stuck on the coffee, slipping and falling down and breaking your other leg. Please let me bring you coffee. That's what I needed to hear. I needed to hear, no, you asking me for help is actually easier for me. You know, don't be dumb, Heather. And so that's how we started with that. So giving those explanations that here's why, or here's what we can do. And then backing up your boundary with action. Because honestly, we've all seen toddlers, right? In the grocery store. I want this candy. I want this candy. I want this candy. I want this candy. Fine, here, have the candy. Well, guess what? The next time it's, oh, if I bother my parent enough, they'll get me the candy. Sometimes we do that too, don't we? We try to wind a person down until they finally say yes. And if we really can't do something, if we really don't want to do something, if we're not comfortable with something, we can say it. And we can say, okay, I'm not doing that. So let's go back to my physical therapist friend. If you know, maybe she's coming to your house and doing some home care for the person that you love. And she's like, all right, here's what we're going to do. And we're going to do transfers with a gait belt. And you're like, yeah, I don't want to use a gait belt. I need something different. And if she doesn't listen and you're like, no, I'm not going to use that, to really just say, here's what I am willing to do or not willing to do, and making sure the person knows that. And then last thing for us is we have this beautiful acronym, because everything needs to be an acronym so we remember it, right? Called SPIRE. And this is really looking at our whole being. This is research from Tal Ben-Shahar, who is a positive psychologist. He was at Harvard. And really looking at our spiritual self. So are we leading a meaningful, purposeful life? Our physical self, are we caring for ourselves? And I'm going to say this is not necessarily exercising and eating healthy. It can be, but it's also, are we caring for our body? Are we getting rest when we need rest? Are we doing what helps our body feel good? That intellectual, so really learning and being open to new experiences. Are we reading? Are we listening to things? Are we listening to music? All of those things help us with our awe, our gratitude, our being able to get through a day. Relational, that's where we nurture a constructive relationship with ourselves and others. So do we have someone that we can turn to? Are we kind to ourselves? That's that relational. And then emotional, we've talked about feelings today, right? How can we really make sure we feel the feelings? One way to really do this is to think about, and if you want to write any of these in chat, you certainly can. If you want to write these down, you can. If you just want to think about it, that's really cool too. Who's your person? Do you have a person who will help you no matter what? Now, sometimes when we start down the road into caregiving, or that maybe this could be caregiving, but I'm not going to call it that right now. Maybe the person who you're starting to caregive for was that person who will help you no matter what. And maybe that's different now. Maybe that's changed. Maybe you were both going to travel together and now you're not going to travel together. Maybe you used to do a lot of hiking and now you can't hike anymore. So that person is just a little bit different. And that's absolutely okay. That person's still your person. You're just reframing what you do together. Do you also have a person who will listen to you vent or listen to you and offer you fix-it solutions, whichever you kind of want to do? I've learned in my life to ask, are you just telling me because you need to just get this off your chest, or are you telling me because you want solutions? Because those are two very different things sometimes. Do you have people who will do that for you? Your glimmer. This is where you find awe. So really thinking about, all right, what do I love? How can I make sure I listen to the birds every day? How can I make sure that I get those really good breakfast smells that I love? How can I see the flowers? If I'm, in the house because it's really icky out, what can I do instead of listening to the birds? What could I do now? So where do we find those glimmers of awe? The next one's a little bit bigger, is what gives you joy, or that, is it meeting with a friend? Is it reading a really good book? Is it listening to music that you love? What are those things that you're like, okay, if I do this for 5-10 minutes, I know I'm going to feel a little better. And for me, playing the piano, actually. Sometimes it's really like loud music and I'll play Helter Skelter by the Beatles. And sometimes it's kind of pretty music, and sometimes it's sad music, depending on my mood. And then really looking at, all right, what's my go-to coping skill? And I know we've all been taught that we're supposed to be fine and we're supposed to just keep trudging ahead. And sometimes we need to take a moment. It might be 5 minutes, it might be 15, it might be, 67 seconds, whatever it is. And is it okay if you cry for a little bit, or take a few breaths, or maybe talk to someone or call someone? And just before we end here and I take some questions, I want to just let you know that sometimes we look at this, and I mentioned pie earlier today. I can't cut a pie equally to save my soul. Maybe I need one of those pie thingies that you can like use the lines. All of this though on Whole Being Inspire, with whatever we do, with whatever activities we do, it helps our whole self. So this does not have to be pie. If you're like, you know what? I'm not going to eat well. I like my Twinkies and my donuts and my Diet Coke, and I'm not changing. Not asking you to, because we all get to choose, right? But if you're like, you know what? I do a lot with intellectual. I read a lot, and I like listening to music, and I go to podcasts, and I come to things like this group right here. That will also increase our whole being. So I'm going to end here and say thank you. So we have a couple minutes for questions, I think, if I was paying attention to the time correctly. So I'll stop sharing and look at, what is it we can do to maybe be a little bit more self-compassionate? What is it maybe that we have some questions with? Or frankly, you can be like, yeah, Heather, here's the thing. Here's how I grew up. And I think what you just said is kind of a crack, and I want to question you on it.
I have to say this was an excellent session, Heather, because it fits a lot of some of the things in my family to a T. And your information is so spot on that I feel like I got an awful lot out of this, and I hope a lot of people get to see this.
Well, Sue, thank you. And yeah, I think it's one of those things that when we have all of our hopes and dreams at the beginning of our lives, we don't necessarily look down the road and like, shoot, I'm going to have to deal with this. Or, whoa, this is what I was expecting retirement to be, or this is what I was expecting, my life to be like. And, we have to reframe. I am dealing with now too. I thought, my kids all have moved out of the house. So it's that empty nesting kind of period of my life. And I thought it was going to look kind of like this. And there's some things that happened in my life where, oh, well, bummer. It's not going to look like that. And I can still have some of that, but I have to reframe it. And I have to think about, all right, what does that look like? I have a person who I know who they loved to travel. And her husband now has dementia and they can't go too far out of town. What she decided to do, and I think this is one of the most beautiful reframes, is instead of traveling to, Greece or Florida or wherever, they travel to root beer stands.
Oh,
And so they go to different root beer stands. They're like, okay, anything within a 45-minute drive, we're going to go and try all the different root beer stands and see how they are. So just a reframe of, we're not traveling like we thought we were going to. We can still travel in this way. So really taking those adventures to a different level. And that's hard. It's really hard. And we're able to do it. I know y'all can. I know I can too.
Well, thank you, Heather, so much. I think this was some really great information. And I know for me personally, I think a lot of this is relatable to being a parent. And so it's kind of those transferable skills from now and then maybe what I can use in the future. I did post the evaluation link in the chat. So if you all would be so kind to fill out our evaluation for today, but I just want to thank you all for being here. And thank you, Heather, so much for your presentation today. We will stop the recording if you have any questions that you'd like to ask with the recording off. We'll be hanging on for a few more minutes. Okay. Thank you all.